Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 78 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is a fish that is incredibly popular in the aquarium trade. You can find this in every pet store. I can almost guarantee you this. But how much do you actually know about this fish? Well, I'm here to teach you. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is the Kuhli Loach. So the Kuhli Loach, or the scientific name Pangeo kuhlii, again that's Pangeo kuhlii, or maybe Pangeo kuhlii. It is part of the family Cobididae, which is the family of true loaches. Now the true loaches are an old world family, so think of your Asian, New Guinea, that's that area of the world, Asia and India, that sort of thing. This particular loach, the Kuhli Loach, originally comes from the Indonesian area in the Malay Peninsula. So that's where these can be found in the wild and where they originally were from. They have been moved all over the world due to, them being so popular in the aquarium trade. There's been escapes. You can find these small populations throughout the world. They are a little sensitive to water chemistry, which we'll get into it a little bit, but they're definitely not in any problem of being vulnerable or in danger. Now the Kuhli Loach lives in sandy bars, slow moving rivers, streams of mountains. Like, it really likes these kind of lowland mountain streams, the sand. They're not, it's not whitewater rapids. They really can't swim very well. And they can't be in the uplands because they're a tropical fish, so they really like their warmer water. But they like their water harder though, and most Asian fish do. The Asian geology makes it to where the water is much harder than most of your South American and your North American fish, especially your Eastern North America. Your South American fish is usually really soft, acidic water. This is much more hard and basic water. And something else that's odd about these loaches is it's really just odd as loaches go. They're found in like small clusters. They're not a schooling fish by any means, but they're not solitary. They really enjoy the company of other fish, especially other Kuhli Loaches. They just enjoy having other members of their species around. They're still very cautious and nocturnal by nature, but they just enjoy the company of other fish. It's really odd. Most of the other loaches that I have dealt with really like to be solitary, don't really like a lot of animals near them, don't like to be seen by people, really nocturnal. These are nocturnal, but you can really kind of train them to come out during the day, and they do actually can imprint on their owners and take food out of their hands. They are a small fish. They have a max length of about 10 centimeters, which is about 4 inches. And you can kind of see right here and here, they have kind of slightly compressed sides. Basically, they look like a little striped eel. That's the best way to put it. They look like a little tiny striped eel, about 4 inches long. That's about your max. There have been some people that say they got theirs up to 6 inches. Those seem to be incredibly large. Most of the time I feel that these stick around that 4-inch mark. I don't know if you can tell right here, but you can tell on this, they actually have 4 pairs of barbels around the mouth. So they got those and remember, barbels are what like catfish have, those real fleshy whiskers. Those are sensory organs, meaning that they're using these to feel, smell, and taste things around cracks and pebbles. Something else that's kind of interesting to note that a lot of people don't realize, I didn't even know this, Kuhli Loaches actually have a small spine beneath the eye that usually you never see. When they're relaxed, you will not see that spine. However, when they get threatened, they'll actually pop that spine out. And it's just a defense mechanism. I don't know what that defense mechanism is going to be useful for. I mean, a 4-inch fish, and it's got like a 1/10 of an inch spine underneath the eye. The rest of its body's basically unprotected. They do technically have scales, but they're really soft and usually embedded in the skin. They look and feel scaleless. So that little spine isn't going to do too much, I don't think, but it is there. Something else that you can probably tell from the pictures, they have extremely small fins. Very small fins. They don't really need them. If you can't tell, these are very bottom-dwelling organisms. They don't move very fast. That's why they're found in slow-moving rivers and streams. They don't have a lot of water movement to turbulence to kind of swim through. They're just kind of hanging out on the bottom. They will swim around and get to place to place. Then they just kind of settle out to the bottom, and then you use their body to kind of wiggle around looking for things to eat. Something interesting, their dorsal fin, which is the fin on the back, starts way back on the body. It is a normal, semi-normal looking dorsal fin, but it starts way back here. Most dorsal fins start about the midline of the body to the front part. This one starts way back there, and it's just a small little one. Something else that's interesting to note about this, their eyes are actually covered in a transparent skin. They can see, but it's a real thin layer of skin that covers and protects their eyes. And that's probably because they're staying on the bottom, and that allows small sand particles and other detritus to hit their eye but not necessarily damage the eye. That'd be what I would think that it's for. They do have these bars down the side. There's about 10 to 15 dark brown or black of these vertical bars. And then you have this, in between the barring, you have this yellow, pinkish color that's really indicative of the Kuhli loaches. Salmon pink, yellow, they're in between. But that's the actual color of the fish, and the black is the bar. They're not pale with black barring. Scratch that. They're not black with these white bars. They're actually pale with these black bars, real thick bars. It is very, very difficult to tell the difference between males and females. It's really, really difficult. Males, if you look really, really closely, males are a minuscule amount more muscular in the front portion of their body. So up here, they're minusculely more muscular, and their pectoral fins, which are the fins here, are slightly larger, and they usually have some pigment. That's not a real good way to tell. It's really difficult to tell these fish between male and female. Sorry. But however, as I've said numerous times, why you've probably seen it, why I've talked about this, this is possibly one of the most popular fish in the aquarium trade by far, especially by people who, I'm not going to say like goldfish popularity, but this is probably one of the first fish that people get when they go beyond goldfish and mollies and things like that. This is probably the next step up because they're so prevalent and they're so cheap. You can find these anywhere from like $3 to $5 per fish, sometimes cheaper. You can buy them in bundles. They're pretty easy to obtain and cheap to get. And if you know what you're doing, they can actually last quite a long time. They can live up to 14 years in captivity, so they can actually stay alive quite a long time. So once you get the aquarium set up properly, you've got a fish for a long time. And they're a great cleaner fish. These things are scavengers, so they'll eat anything that reaches the bottom. Any of that old detritus food stuffs that's decaying material. You do still need to feed them like some bottom dwelling stuff, so bloodworms, things like that, but they're relatively easy to feed. But they're usually fed at night. Or they usually feed at night, sorry. So they usually come out at night to eat and then kind of go back. So you may not realize that they're getting as much food as they are. And that's where these barbels come into play and why their eyes are protected and they don't really need to see them. They're using those barbels to find the little bits of food material in between the pebbles and the rocks and everything. That's where they're getting their food, because they're usually doing this in the dark of night. And that's why they swim on the bottom. Something else that's really popular about this is they're very docile. They're not an aggressive fish at all. That's why you can have multiple of them. They can be in a community aquarium. They're very, very docile. Very, very docile. They're not going to nip at other fish. They're just a really, really good fish, as long as you get the water chemistry right, which you need warmer water that's slightly harder. That's basically it. Now, something interesting about this, though, is these are also burrowing fish. These fish love to burrow in the substrate. So in an aquarium, especially if you get the proper substrate, which usually fine sands or excessively fine gravel, you don't really want sharp pebbles because they'll actually cut their skin trying to dig. But if you get like really finely grained gravel, they'll burrow down into the bottom and then they just stay there for very long periods of times. They'll emerge to eat at night, and then when they get full, they bury themselves again. So there's many stories on the internet. In fact, one of my friends had this happen to him. You clean out the gravel, you think your Kuhli Loach passed away, died, whatever, you lost it. And then you go in there to clean the gravel. My friend that did it was about a month and a half after he thought the Kuhli Loach was dead. He was cleaning out his gravel, then all of a sudden, pop, there was another Kuhli Loach. There's stories all over where aquarium people will find a Kuhli Loach that they thought had died a long time ago. However, there is a caveat to that. Something else that's in the aquarium you need to be aware of in the aquarium is you have to screen your filter inlets, because they love to swim up those filters, and depending on your filter system, that could kill them, and a lot of times it actually does. So you do need to have a screen around your filter inlet if you are going to have these on. That's just a word of caution for the people there. Now, for the interesting fact that we're going to end the video on. I said that the males and females are extremely difficult to tell apart. Well, it's actually really easy when it's breeding season. Females actually grow a lot during breeding season. They become much larger than the males, and their ovaries can be seen through the skin before spawning. And the reason why that's really neat, you're like, oh, okay, ovaries, yada yada. Their ovaries are actually green, and that is because they have very, very green eggs. The females lay a few hundred greenish eggs among the roots of floating plants. So if you want to spawn these in an aquarium, you really need to have these floating plants. They really like the roots. In fact, let's see if we can find a picture of the eggs. See, look right here. I should have had this up. Granted, this is a Kuhli Loach that has been dead and kind of dissected, but you can see how green these eggs are right there. So, that is not there, but you can see the green in those, the green and how green those are. That's a really, really neat. Not many fish have that green of an eggs, but the female will lay those few hundred greenish eggs around the roots of floating plants, and the young actually hatch very quickly, and then they eat the little tiny microscopic organisms among the roots of those. That's how they survive. So anyway, I thought the green eggs were a really interesting fact, and who knows, maybe it was Dr. Seuss's inspiration. That's a joke and definitely not true. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Please leave a comment. I love reading them. But thank you so much for the love and support. It's been incredible. Thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And peace.